Always buy your Gap policy through your insurance company.
No. Always buy your Gap coverage from the dealership.
No.
Yes.
No.
You have no idea what you're talking about.
But everybody on YouTube says to buy it through your insurance company.
Oh. You guys have been asking questions about Gap insurance for years.
It's freezing out here. Let's go in the house. I don't know anything about Gap. Since you buy all our cars, why don't you give me a breakdown on it?
Then why were you telling everybody up front to buy it from the insurance company?
Oh, that's because you said to.
So there's really three important things on a breakdown of Gap insurance. When and why to buy it, how much it's going to cost you, and most importantly, who to buy it from. What is Gap insurance? Gap insurance is an optional policy that goes along with your financed vehicle. The key word there, optional. No bank, no dealership can ever tell you that this is something required to obtain financing. Hence the word optional. A Gap policy is designed to protect you in the event of a total loss of your financed vehicle. Fire, flood, theft, whatever the case may be, obviously accident. Like seriously, why would you need to be penalized if something happened to you that wasn't your fault? Recently, my daughter was just involved in a hit and run accident and we questioned if the vehicle was going to be totaled or not. Then I was talking to a client of mine and his son was hit by a drunk driver. And these are just two real world scenarios that could cost and hurt you financially. You know there are millions of other scenarios and banks don't wait for litigation outcomes when they want their money. But before we go any further, I want to make sure you understand what Gap covers. This line right here represents the loan amount that you took out on your car. This line down here represents the term that you're borrowing your money on. Now we make equal payments over time on our car, so therefore we typically pay this off at a pretty steady rate. Our vehicle values fluctuate and we typically borrow more money on our car than what it's worth. So that line looks a little bit different and eventually it steadies out. This right here is what's called the gap. This is your loan amount. This is what your car is worth. If you have a total loss right there, you owe the bank this much money, but the car's only worth that much. So this money has to come from somewhere. Does it come from your pocket or does it come from Gap coverage? Let's talk about when you need to buy Gap coverage. If you're buying a new or used vehicle and don't have 20% down, you need to buy it. I'm referring to cold hard cash or trade equity. On new cars, you want to calculate your 20% off of MSRP before any rebates. On used cars, you want to go to NADA retail and use that to calculate what your 20% down payment should be. If you have a trade and you have negative equity on that trade, you want the 20% down plus the negative equity amount. In my experience, if you have negative equity, you need to protect yourself with Gap. Let's talk about the cost. Now, Gap insurance costs can vary state by state based off of regulations. I've seen Gap insurance cost as little as $300 all the way up to almost $2,500. In my personal opinion, $800 is the max you ever want to pay for Gap insurance, but you do also want to do a Google search to see if your state regulates it. And I'm talking about the state that you're buying it in, not the state that you're titling it in, if it happens to vary. And one more tip, don't let that finance manager present that to you and say, hey, it's only $8 a month, $10 a month, $15 a month. Make sure you know exactly what the policy costs. The biggest reason people think that they need to buy it strictly from their insurance company is because the dealership shows a whole cost. Your insurance company only tells you what the monthly cost is. So now that ever important question, who do you buy it for?
I can answer that question.
You can, huh?
Yeah.
Who?
We're getting it from the insurance company.
No. We're getting it from the dealer.
No, I don't want to buy from the dealer.
No, buy from the dealer, I'm telling you.
No, insurance company.
Let's talk about this just a little bit more, shall we?
My insurance company is telling me $7 to $9 per month on top of my normal policy. So, you know, if I'm in an accident, they're already handling it. Why wouldn't I want them to handle Gap too?
So $7 to $9 is about exactly what it's going to cost at a car dealership as well. And then personally, my opinion is I think that an insurance company that covers the Gap coverage is kind of like a conflict of interest, right? Kind of want a second opinion on a doctor or a third party objective review on a car deal, anything like that. So that's why I'm not a big fan of insurance companies covering gap. Plus, some things that most people don't know is some limit the coverage. And I'm talking about the term, the year, the loan to value. And if you have negative equity, you need to ask that insurance company to make sure that they cover that negative equity, because that's a big deal. If you have negative equity rolling over, they may not cover it. And most importantly, the age of the vehicle. If you're buying a used car, they may not allow gap coverage to be even put on there. So it makes a lot of sense to look at the dealership's gap coverage. I'm not saying buy it, but at least look at it to know and then communicate with your insurance company on their gap coverage as well. But here's the kicker. If you leave your current insurance company, are you willing to take the risk that the next insurance company is going to cover your gap coverage? That's the big thing right there. And we all change our insurance companies quite a bit. So you got to be careful on that as well. So in my opinion, I think the best place to get your gap coverage is going to be at the dealership.
You're just saying that because you're the dealer.
No, not really. And I know most people want to think that, but in reality, my 21 plus years of experience, I've seen a lot of scenarios that we can't talk about on this video. But you may want to ask your dealership if they forgive your deductible if you do have a total loss and you come back and buy from them.